What connects paramilitary training camps in Bosnia and Serbia and Stars of David painted on buildings in Paris? The answer is Russia. My name is Anastasia Marushevska and you're watching Ukraïner International. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss the next episodes and interviews. In October 2023, just a week after Hamas attacked Israel, the German media reported that Stars of David had been spray-painted on the doors of Jewish homes in Berlin. A few days later, similar graffiti appeared across Paris and its suburbs, around 60 blue Stars of David painted on buildings. President of the Union of Jewish Students of France told the Times of Israel, quote, "The people who did this clearly wanted to terrify," end quote. The Stars of David is a symbol of Judaism and Jewish identity and was used by the Nazis to mark Jewish businesses in a similar manner. Jews were also forced to wear identifiers such as armbands or badges in the shape of the Star of David. At first, the graffiti in Paris was treated as another wave of anti-Semitic vandalism linked to the Israel-Hamas war, but evidence soon suggested something more complex. French police detained Moldovan citizens suspected of painting the symbols. They told investigators they had acted on instructions from abroad and had been paid for their work. Their phone records contained Russian-language messages, pointing to possible directions from outside France. French media Europe 1 reported that they were commissioned by an individual in Russia. The images of the Stars of David were then amplified by a doppelganger, a known pro-Russian propaganda network which spreads disinformation across social media. Authorities believe the goal was not only to intimidate Jewish communities, but also to portray France as divided and unstable. In May 2024, another incident took place. A Paris court sentenced 4 Bulgarian men to prison for defacing the Holocaust memorial and nearby buildings with red hand graffiti. The act was part of a coordinated campaign linked to Russia, designed to inflame social tensions in France. And this is where it gets interesting. In December 2024, the European Union sanctioned Moldovan citizen Anatoly Prizhenko for coordinating the campaign with Stars of David in Paris. The EU described the act as, quote, destabilizing operation carried out for the benefit of the Russian military intelligence service and aimed at fueling tensions in French society, end quote. Anatoly Prizhenko was later arrested on suspicion of recruiting Moldovan citizens and organizing paramilitary trainings in Bosnia and Serbia. He was confirmed to be the person who paid for the Stars of David on the streets of Paris. But the Paris case was only one example of a larger infrastructure built by Russia. I recommend reading a report done by the Balkan Investigative Reporting Network and Moldovan outlet Kusens. It tells the story of Anatoly Prizhenko and confirms that instructors at the paramilitary training in Bosnia and Serbia have ties to the Russian mercenary group Wagner and a number of individuals sanctioned by the European Union. So what are those camps exactly? As often with Russian operations, they are presented as something else. This one is sold as a security or survival course. Recruits were promised easy money, of course, and travel. Once inside, they had to surrender phones and passports. They were taught how to handle drones, agitate crowds, and weaponize psychological influence. Camps operated discreetly in rural parts of Serbia and Bosnia, specifically in Republika Srpska, an entity led by Milorad Dodik, a longtime ally of the Kremlin. Why Bosnia? To understand that, you need to know a bit about how the country works. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a single state comprised of 2 main entities created as part of the peace process to end the Bosnian War. The Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, where most Bosniaks and Croats live, and Republika Srpska, dominated by ethnic Serbs. Republika Srpska tends to be more pro-Russian, with its leader Milorad Dodik maintaining close ties with Vladimir Putin. Dodik has threatened to separate from Bosnia, blocking reforms that would bring the country closer to European Union or NATO. Because of these ties and its political isolation, Republika Srpska has become a safe space for Russian influence, a place where pro-Kremlin organizations, veterans groups, and media outlets operate and promote Moscow's narratives. This alignment with Moscow also serves local purposes. By positioning itself as Russia's foothold in the region, its leadership gains leverage against Western influence and uses the relationship to challenge Bosnia's central institutions. In return, the Kremlin gains a European platform for covert operations, propaganda production, and the movement of operatives under the civilian cover. Neighboring Serbia also plays a role. Although officially seeking EU membership, Serbia hosts numerous pro-Russian groups operating with limited oversight. Up until April 2025, an openly pro-Kremlin politician, Aleksandar Vulin, held the position of Deputy Prime Minister of Serbia. As an example, in his interview with Russian propagandist media RIA Novosti, he thanked the Russian intelligence services for helping the Serbian authorities in its fight against student protests. Čedomir Stojković, one of Serbia's leading voices against Russian influence, says that Serbia is under hybrid occupation and that for 15 years Russia has been conducting a huge operation in the country, buying media outlets and news editors. Serbia maintains security cooperation with Moscow and allows Russian-linked organizations to run military-style camps under the pretext of sports or cultural exchange. Several of the Moldovans recruited by Prushenko reportedly trained in Serbia before moving to Bosnia. President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, stated that after the police uncovered one of the camps, quote, "I cannot claim that the Russian intelligence service was involved, but we have established the presence of 3 Russian citizens at the camp." End quote. Those trained in Bosnia and Serbia were used to destabilize the pro-European government in Moldova and disrupt the elections. And later they were sent to Western Europe. So let's look at the pattern. Firstly, they identify recruits. This often means finding those with ideological sympathies, for instance, those who believe in Greater Russia, or are radically anti-democratic, or by offering money to people from poorer, possibly more isolated regions across the Balkans, Central and Eastern Europe. Secondly, they train the recruits in parts of the Balkans that are friendly to Moscow, with weak oversight and possibly high levels of corruption. And thirdly, they deploy the recruits to carry out provocations in different countries. Each step allows Russia handlers to maintain distance and deniability. The Paris operation was low risk, no explosives, no weapons, only paint. Yet it achieved global visibility, amplified by social media and Russian state outlets. Security analysts describe Republika Srpska and parts of Serbia as a rear base of Russian hybrid activity, a zone where influence operations are designed, tested, and then exported across the continent. European intelligence agencies now treat these Balkan hubs as a continued threat. The Paris graffiti, the red hand vandalism at the Holocaust Memorial, and the attempts to disrupt Moldovan elections are seen as interconnected parts of the same system, a network that merges information warfare, proxy actors, and psychological operations to provoke division within democratic states. Listen to what one of the leading pro-democracy and anti-corruption voices of the Balkans, Leila Bičakčić, said in our interview.
Russian-Serbian brotherhood mythology behind it. It's this mythology that is actually being built over and over, which is an emotional side of the story that people really believe at. It built on the dissolution of Yugoslavia, it built on the creation of the new countries, it built on the influence, it's built on the stripping the assets that belong to the country, and now it's a political interest. It's a political interest to create uncertainty in this whole region. It's also interest of Russia to, of course, be closer to the EU and create a problem on the borderlines with the EU. It's to prevent countries to join NATO or EU. It's basically just a typical Russian approach of making sure that they have a seat around the table.
Modern conflict is no longer confined to front lines. It extends into symbols, streets, and social networks. A star painted on the wall in Paris may seem isolated, but it traces back through training groups in Bosnia, recruiters in Moldova, and strategists in Moscow. Each operation tests how far disinformation and fear can go before societies recognize them as deliberate acts of war.